All right, I would like to hand this on to Vinod.
Thank you, Renee. Good morning, everyone. So firstly, I'd like to talk a little bit about why we are so much into this productivity and AI at this juncture, right? So on the left, you can see this is a chart from McKinsey. Uh, Over the last few decades, actually from 1970s, if you see, our contribution to GDP growth, the major contribution to GDP growth has been employment growth, right? So you see this blue bar is much larger than the dark blue bar, right? The light blue bar is much larger. But as we go to 1990s, 2000, 2012 onwards, so these are all decades, right? There are different decades. You can see that the pattern is slightly shifting. The dark blue bar is becoming bigger and bigger, light blue bar is becoming small and small. So what are we seeing? Employment growth is generally fading, right? If we expand our timeline from 70s to now, the trend is generally fading, right? So relying on employment growth as the primary contributor to GDP growth is no longer the thing, right? Productivity is going to be the main engine for GDP growth. Another thing I'd like to highlight is you can see a slight dip here in 2012 to 2022. After the 2008 financial crisis, there's a little bit of less sentiment on investments. COVID came along in this decade, so a lot of disruptions has probably slowed down that growth globally, right? And now we are at this juncture where we hear about AI, agentic AI solutions and all. And this is the time moving forward that we see huge potential for all this technology to reignite that growth. The next productivity revolution will happen, but it's not going to happen by chance, right? It has to be designed. And that's what we're going to share today. So first on AI advocacy, right? So there are three things that we need to do in AI advocacy, and this is the first thing, right? First is tone from the top. We have basically set a near-term breakthrough productivity goal powered by AI, first of all, right? I think everything started from there, right? The CEO has set a goal for us in the near term, and we need to achieve it. And not only with AI, right? With also traditional levers. End of the day, we are a manufacturing organization. We also need to do other physical automation, lean productivity tools has to be implemented. But now with AI coming on board, we need to do much more than that. Consistent signal. As our leaders, reiterate why AI, why now, this becomes a consistent message across the organization. So then people will start to, continue to think and innovate as they go on. Finally, there's an AI enterprise office, right? With an organization this large, sometimes we need to think about governance, right? That's important. Secondly is flagship events, right? So besides all this, we also have some flagship events. For example, we have symposiums, right? AI symposiums. AI symposiums, we bring in different teams to come and share what AI projects they have worked on, what they have what they have completed, so that others can take it and scale to their site, right? So this is one of it. Secondly, on AI Hackathon Week, right? So we have weeks that we use to promote AI across the organization. Thirdly is always on communication and community, right? So besides all this, in the background, we need a lot of constant communication. We have newsletters that share what are the new AI wins. We have an agent marketplace as well, right? And what I mean by that is as you create AI agents, for example, using Copilot, you can easily market it, right? So we have a platform where all the AI agents are there, their capabilities are there, and people can actually take and use it if they want. They can download and use it. Finally is a kind of a social media, right? To just create that excitement all the time and to share updates on new developments in AI. So on literacy, how do we structure an AI training in this kind of organization? So we thought about, right, first building a community support, right? What that means is we need to first set up a community of trainers to train the employee. And we internally identified who are the subject matter experts who can do that, right? Secondly is of course, deploying the training. Thirdly is recognition that I'll touch upon a little bit. And fourthly is ensuring that these employees contribute to business impact, right? So this framework is important because if we only train them, there's no assurance that they're going to go and apply those knowledge and get the business value, right? So all these need to be tied to each other. It needs to start with a community of trainers, train, recognize, and then, get the impact for your business, right? So when you train your workforce, and everyone is coming up with projects, there are going to be hundreds of projects at some point, right? And on top of that, there are going to be other projects as well. There are going to be lean projects. There are going to be Kaizen projects, right? There's going to be traditional automation projects and all that. How do you actually prioritize them? Because a company doesn't have infinite resources, right? So how do you actually build a framework to prioritize them? So since this topic is about AI innovation, I just want to touch on that a little bit before I show you two examples of what our own engineers and professionals have done, right? An example. So I have two examples. This is the first one. This is about automated data consolidation and insights generation. Okay. So in the past, I think everyone can relate. We have so many different functions in manufacturing, right? There's manufacturing themselves, there's engineering, quality, project management, and all that. So various different teams typically work on different operational data and matrices, right? And when that happens, what happens is you have so many different data visualization going on. You have so many different data compilation in different formats, right? And then the storage locations are also so varied, right? So what we did here, we wanted all this to be in one place, right? So you can see the end outcome here is just an illustration. When we train the workforce, we don't only train with AI companion tools. We need to also train with the more traditional data productivity tools, such as UiPath, C#, Tableau, and all those things, visualization included, right? So how did we do? We used UiPath to extract all the raw data, right, from multiple sources. We use C# to transform that data, clean and transform the data. We use SQL Server to store those data. We use Tableau to visualize them. And then on top of it, we layer the Copilot agent, right, to perform the analysis and insights and become like an assistant to the engineer, to empowering the workforce for them to come up with a bottom-up approach on projects, right? So that we have a lot of ideas and projects. But at the same time, we need a top-down approach. We need to be strategic about doing this. So we call this a reimagined anatomy of manufacturing, right? And we have broken this by the brain, the heart, and the muscles of manufacturing. Okay. So for each of this, we have a vision, right? And whatever you see in the colored fonts are basically the vision statement of how we envision our business process to transform with AI. So the strategic business plan, like I said, imagine you get a quarterly loading plan, right? And then that goes into this loading plan AI. All these names are very generic name, right? So if that goes into this loading plan AI, imagine this tells us what additional equipment, tooling, or spares that's required. And that can go into what we call a CapEx navigator agent, right? Now, headcount planning. How do you do headcount planning? If this tells you that this is the amount of loading you have to support, and you have a headcount model in the background, that can go into this AI agent called the workforce sizer, right? In between, if you have equipment, additional equipment requirement, today what we do is we have engineers to generate equipment layout on production floor. How it's done is we have some guidance, right? What is the spacing between tools that we need to have? What is the spacing of the walkway we need to have? And the same we have done for tactical planning and also manufacturing execution via the remote operations center that I was talking about. Okay. So this is a vision, right? We don't have this today, right? But this is just to share an idea that we have here, that the potential of having AI agents working for us is tremendous, right? We can actually transform our entire business process, but it's going to take a lot of effort and energy, and we can't do it alone. Hence, the entire workforce needs to be transformed.